Have you ever thought about how strange it is that the concept of Santa Claus and the concept of the Christian God, as people are educated about God, have so much in common? They're both described as father figures, our Father who art in heaven and Father Christmas. They're both depicted as being somehow transcendent. God is in the heavens, the clouds, and Santa Claus rides above us. And crucially, both are described as always watching us, keeping a list of naughty and nice, waiting to dish out rewards and punishments at some point in the future. Both of them have magical, miraculous powers. When we look at how God and Santa Claus are depicted in art, they are essentially the same individual. I mean, literally they look exactly the same. Maybe Santa Claus is a bit fatter, but really they're the same old man with a white beard, a father figure, and different clothing, right? One wears robes, the other strange red and white weird costumes. So why? And what does this tell us about where our ideas of God come from, and potentially how our ideas about God become corrupted by parental influences and societal influences, and why that happens? Well, it seems to me that, of course, as a parent, it must be quite useful to be able to convince your child that they are always watching and being morally judged, because this encourages them to behave well and not get into trouble. So both of them are kind of useful deceptions that parents teach their children. And on a societal scale, of course, the same principle unfolds. People, before CCTV cameras were invented, could be convinced that they were always being observed and that justice would be done if they do not conform to moral norms, if they break the laws, break the rules, or do something immoral. They will be punished in the future. It has a kind of social control function on a societal scale. This is often discussed by Marxists and the like. But also, as children, the concept of God and Santa Claus both are used to control the behavior of young people. And for what it's worth, I think there is something useful about this idea of God as a way of seeing reality in the universe. But it seems to me that these very childish ideas kind of contaminate many religious people's views of what God is. And it can be quite damaging. It's as if many religious people really on some level still see God as a father figure who is judging them all the time and going to dish out rewards and punishments. It's, as Freud said, a kind of fantasy father figure to many people. They become emotionally attached to. And these people then go around essentially saying, well, you better behave, you better not divorce, not have sex with this person or that person, not do what you want, but do what I say is right and wrong. Otherwise, Santa Claus, God, is going to dish out punishments to you in the future. And I think this is really problematic for Christians, aside from the kind of psychological and emotional problems that it causes, because it kind of means they end up violating one of the Ten Commandments, because one of the Ten Commandments is not to worship false idols. Now, if you walk around with a false concept of God, this kind of imaginary father figure, and you're worshipping that Santa Claus that your parents told you about, instead of worshipping reality, which is what the word God kind of refers to, reality when conceived as one, that which all things are within and that which is in all things. That, for me, is what that word God refers to. And so you stop worshipping that and you start worshipping an idea of God. This is a false idol then that is being worshipped. And I think this is why there is a certain wisdom in Islam to the prohibition of trying to depict God, because no matter how you depict God, you will create a false idol. Whether you depict God as an old white man with a beard, or a young black woman with a beard or without a beard, you have created a false idol. I think this is really interesting. In Buddhism, there's a great Buddhist book called Buddhism Without Beliefs, and it essentially it discusses Zen Buddhism and the idea that to live a life without attachment means also to renounce beliefs, and that if you wish to perceive reality directly, you ought to have faith in what is given to the senses and the mind without adding and subtracting things from that process. And when we think, we are essentially disturbing the mind. We're adding something. We are creating artifice instead of having faith in what is offered to us in the present moment. And I would argue that to have faith in God, to have faith in reality, and this is not something to do with thoughts and like conceptual beliefs about God. There's a great danger, in Zen Buddhism they talk about not mistaking the moon and not mistaking the finger pointing at the moon for the moon itself. And I feel like this is something that impacts a lot of the Christians I have met. They are very attached to the ideas they have about God, and they worship those ideas because, crucially, those ideas have quite powerful emotional content for them. Like, sometimes you meet Christians who really go on and on about the love of God, the love of Jesus, and they seem to be so attached to. It's basically like an addiction to a concept, actually. It's not really worshipping God. It's just being attached to a concept of what they want God to be and what they think God is. So, rant over. I hope you found that interesting. Please do feel free to share your thoughts and reflections on this issue in the comments section below.